The purpose of this video is to demonstrate the WinQS software's capabilities and the general concepts of the WinQS program. WinQS is a complete quantity surveying system that allows the PQS or the cost consultant to complete all the project administration from the very first estimate to the final account. The installation of the WinQS program includes all the standard libraries, typically like your ASAQS model bills, JBCC preliminaries, etc. On request, we can also provide libraries for other industries like the Colto libraries, the NEC, POMI, etc. Users can also import their own library files from Excel files. The Excel file obviously needs to be in a specific format, but that will all be explained within the WinQS program. The special features of WinQS includes the over 48 customized reports, which include your bill printing reports, your cost analysis, your tender analysis, financial reviews, valuations. You can even print a specific dimension for a specific location that was measured by a specific user in the office. So it includes various reports, which means you don't have to edit those reports like you would have done in Excel. It's already set up by the WinQS software. It includes bill column layouts for SANS 1200 and engineering schedules where the user can insert payment references. It includes a multi-level location structure, which means you can really measure into a specific area of a building, and if you measure in a specific location, you will have the ability to report cost on that specific location. So the more detail you start off with your location structure, the more information you can extract from your project. All reports can be exported to PDF and to Excel. We've got sort key coding. Sort key coding works similar to your filter process in Excel. So that means you can code items with specific codes and you can extract information based on those codes. Sort key coding can be used to extract values to calculate fees for engineers. It can also be used to combine items to do valuations a bit faster so that you can combine all the foundation items and then you can pay a percentage against that specific code for foundations. We've got also the global project constant coding. That would be constants that you can apply globally to your project. Typical example of global project constants is your reinforcement allowances. You will be provided with information of foundation that will have an average of 120 kilograms per cube reinforcement, and foundations would include your footings, your beams, your ground beams, your surface beds, that kind of foundations, and you can apply that 120 kilograms per cube then throughout the foundations. Should that 120 kilograms per cube be changed by the engineer to 130 kilograms per cube, you only need to go and change the one constant where you've applied that coding, and then that will update throughout your document. Everywhere where you've measured 120, it would be updated to 130. WinQS also has a very powerful interface with Dimension X. You can do your measurements in Dimension X and you'll be able to import them into WinQS, into a specific dedicated Dimension X document. And from that document, you can link those quantities to the specific items in your bill of estimates or in your bill of quantities where you want to apply those quantities. When you do a revision in Dimension X, you will update your quantities in Dimension X. You will auto-measure it into WinQS again, and that will update the quantities with the links as it was set up initially. It also has an interface with third-party software via the ability to export your ASCII to CSV to Excel, etc. So any third-party software that has the ability to import information from Excel or from ASCII files, you'll be able to export the information in such a format, and the third-party software will be able to import it. WinQS also has an interface with our own WinQS tender system, which really gives the user the ability to speed up the whole tender process, where you will provide the contractor with a specific tender backup if they have the tender system, they can import the tender backup into the tender system. From there, they can export it again to ASCII, CSV, etc., where they can import it into their dedicated software that they use for rate build-ups. They can finalize their tender rate build-ups in their own software. From there, they can import or put the values into the tender system again, and in the tender system, they can export the price back to the PQS, and the PQS can import that price back into WinQS commercial system. That speeds up the tender process tremendously. It also eliminates any rounding differences between you and the contractor, and it also makes the whole tender process a lot safer because it won't allow the contractor to add new items, and it won't allow the contractor to make any changes to your tender quantities. So it will be a very clean tender, and it will balance with the contractor. Okay. WinQS consists out of various modules. So as a user, you can choose which modules you want to purchase. Those modules, when you purchase them, will unlock certain functionality within the WinQS software. The modules are your very basic and core module bill of quantities. WinQS can't function without the bill of quantities module. So that, as I said, is our core module, and that is the module that will be used for the final bill production. Then we've got the bill of estimates module, which is used for the estimating production. Now these two modules are linked and can be linked, and which means that when you start off with an estimate, you can link it to the bill of quantities, and as you measure the estimate, you are also in the process preparing your bill of quantities for the tender. That means that you save probably 2 to 3 weeks, because when your budget is approved, your tender is basically complete, and you just need to clean up the bill production slightly, and your tender is ready to go out. Should you have done this estimate in different software and your budget is approved, it means you will only start working in the bill production of WinQS at that point. So using the two together can save you a tremendous amount of time while you're busy with your estimating process. Then we've got the cost analysis module. The cost analysis module, because WinQS has got a multi-level location structure, the cost analysis can assist you to extract those costs per location, and it can also provide a proper advanced cost analysis as per the estimating guide, where you can see the cost per element and the cost per construction area. We've got the tender analysis module, which obviously analyzes your tender prices. You can analyze up to 6 contractors with one report on an A4 page, and up to 10 contractors on an A3 page. Should you have more contractors than that, we would suggest that you export those reports to Excel, and then you can adjust the column sizes in Excel to fit in more contractors on one page. The valuation modules is to assist you with your monthly valuations. You can either apply the sort key method, as I mentioned earlier, where you can do certificates per key, and you can value a percentage, a quantity, or an amount, or you can use the item by item option, which gives you the ability to measure per location, per item, the value that you want to certify. The item by item valuation option also gives you the ability to export a file to a contractor. He can complete the contractor's claim per item, per location. He can send it back to you, and you can import his claim. From there onwards, you can adjust his claim to what you want to certify that month. Then we've got the financial review or the final account module, which is your monthly cost reporting module. That module gives you the ability to see your contract amount, your estimated final cost, and also the movement from the previous month and the overall movement. And in that same report, you can also show what you valued to date. So it gives you a full detailed report per item on the movement on the contract. Then we've got the JBCC module, which is your monthly contract payment certificates. So the JBCC and the valuations can work together quite well, and they can be linked through a CPAP sort key. So whether you've got escalation on your project or not, that specific CPAP sort key links the two modules to each other. So as you're doing your valuation on the valuation side of WinQS, you can afterwards go and import those values into the JBCC module. In the JBCC module, we will be able to help you to calculate the HALET calculations. You just need to import or input the indices from Stats South Africa, and then it will calculate your HALET calculations for you. And it also includes the different kinds of securities. So when you set up your JBCC payment certificate, you'll be able to say what type of contract are you working with. And so first of all, you can choose, is it the JBCC 6.1, 6.2, or is it minor works? You can say what type of security the contractor selected. If you don't know the type of security that the contractor selected, we've included a manual retention calculation, so you can manually adjust the retention every month. Okay. So the valuations, financial review, and JBCC, those three modules work very well together, and the values will balance them throughout the three reports in terms of what you certify per certificate per month, and it will also be able to print out all your calculations in terms of your escalation, the work done summary, any penalties that was levied, recoveries, etc. At the moment, we only include the JBCC contract because the JBCC they've got a set payment certificate layout. So it's very easy to develop something that's very specific. In the future, we'll be looking at valuations for FIDIC and NEC, which is slightly more difficult to develop because every company can actually choose their own layout. Those type of contracts don't have specific set layouts. So should we develop something like that in the future, it will be a specific layout, and we would unfortunately not be able to deviate from that specific layout. Also included in the valuation modules are a newly added feature which is called variation orders. It's a WinQS variation order which will be able to give you the ability to record every change on your project and to give a detailed report on what has changed from the contract to the final account and the reasons for those changes. So in the industry, you would have site instructions, you will have official variation orders, which is change orders on a project, and you can list all of those against the WinQS variation order numbers. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to report and show which variation orders were agreed between you and the contractor, which ones were declined by the client or by the QS itself. So you can basically input all the claims and any reason for every rand or cent that was causing the change from the contract amount to the final account. Okay, so WinQS has various documents. Obviously, depending on the modules that you've purchased, it will display on your screen when you open WinQS. The 6 documents that we have currently, the first one will be our bill of quantities. It's a blue document and it's based on the standard system of measurement, and it's used for bill production and contract administration. Now, this layout of the bill of quantities does not just have to be according to the standard system of South Africa, it can be according to the standard system of measurements of any country. WinQS allows you to add a structure which applies to the country where you live. So there's no set standards, you can set up the standards of the document. The bill of estimate would be the green document, and that's then the document that you'll be using for your estimating portion. Again, the setup and the structure of the estimating can be as per the country that you live in. Now, these 2 documents are the documents that can be linked together, where you can do your estimate and your tender at the same time. Then we've got an orange document that's called the measurement groups. Now, if you have the Dimension X software installed, you might not be using the collections document, but the collections document is there to basically measure collections in terms of areas, lengths, perimeters, number of doors, number of windows, etc. The Dimension X document then is the document that you will be using as the interface between WinQS and Dimension X. So the measurements of Dimension X will be auto-measured into the Dimension X data document of WinQS. The global project constants is, as I mentioned earlier, used for the global project constants. It's a document on its own, and you can apply as many global project constants as you please. These project constants can also be copied between different projects, so you don't need to set up all of them every time when you start a new project. And that also applies to the links between the BOE and the BOQ. If you've set up a pro forma document, for example, office block, and the typical items that will be measured in an office block, the next time when you have another office block project, you'll be able to just create a new project and copy it from that project without the dimensions. Then you would have maintained all the links that you did in the pro forma example for offices, and then so you save a tremendous amount of time because you can use the data over and over again, together with the prices that was included there. So if you did a project and you had specific prices in 2019, you can apply those prices in 2020 and just apply some escalation, but all the links will be there and set up. Then we've got the JBCC document, which is then of course the payment certificates. So you can see it's a document on its own, but as I said, it does have an interface with the bill of quantities document from where you will do your valuations, and then it can be imported into the JBCC document. Now the general WinQS concepts is that we've got structures and we've got descriptions. The structure part is the what part. What am I measuring? And it will be in the forms of sections and or bills, and it can be sectional or non-sectional documents. 99% of quantity surveyors prefer sectional documents, but there is nothing wrong with using a non-sectional document. The difference between the two would be that a sectional document would be your sections where you have section 1 preliminary, section 2 builder's work, section 3 provisional sums. A non-sectional document, you will still have all those trades, but you will just have one final summary total and no sectional summary totals. At the end of the day, those two documents, the different types, should give you the same bottom line figure for the project. So it doesn't really matter which layout you use, the bottom line would be correct. So the structure and descriptions part are, as I said, the what part, not the where part. So a section should not be used to determine where am I measuring. So you shouldn't be using section 1 is the office block of a project, and section 2 is the gatehouse of that same project, because in the process you will be repeating yourself and you will be creating a lot of extra work for future contract administration, etc. Because you will have, for example, excavation of surface trenches more than once in the same project, and contractors could potentially give you different rates for the same item. The only time where we will suggest that you use sections for where you are measuring is if you are doing work in phases and the rates has to be different for the different phases, and you want to include all of that work into one project in WinQS. The locations part, the multi-level location part, is then the where part. Where am I measuring? And that, of course, enables the PQS to provide costs for different portions of the project. And as we said there, try not to change these two around, because you will be causing a lot of unnecessary extra work for yourself while you are doing the tender or the estimate, and in the future when you're doing contract administration. So the WinQS locations part, the where part. WinQS has a 4-level location structure, and I'm going to use the following project as an example, where we've got an office block, we've got a gatehouse, we've got an entertainment area. And the office block consists out of a ground floor and of a first floor. Okay. So when you start on a WinQS project, it would be extremely important that you take the locations of your project into consideration before you start measuring. So when you receive your first set of drawings, X, that half an hour that you will spend with your location structure will make your life substantially easier in the future when you start, if you set up your document from the beginning with the location structures as showed here. Okay, so this is our location, our typical project, and typically is how you can set up your location structure. So your location A, which by the way locations can be done in alphabetical order or in numerical, but we can only do single digits. So numerical we can only go up to 9. So should you have more than 9 buildings, I would always suggest that you use the location, the alphabetical coding. If you combine your coding correctly, you can have way over 365 different locations in the same project. Okay, so location A, we will put it as the office block. Location B, entertainment area. C, gatehouse. Under the office block, you can separate it between the ground floor, first floor, roof. Under ground floor, you can go further and separate it between the front of house and the back of house. Under front of house, you can take it separately into the reception and boardrooms, which means you will be able to provide cost to your client for the boardrooms on the ground floor of the office block, because that's the way that you input the quantities. So what you put in is what you will get out. And as the saying goes, garbage in is garbage out. If you have locations A for all, and all quantities are measured under one location, your project will not have any intelligence, and you won't be able to use the reports that's given to you in WinQS to its full capacity. The most efficient way to work in WinQS is that the PQS will start by measuring the collection in the forms of areas, lengths, numbers, etc. These collections will either be measured in Dimex or in the measurement groups. Okay, so basically what it comes down to is, should you have the Dimension X software, your work will start in the Dimension X software before you start working in WinQS. Now the big interface between WinQS and Dimension X are the locations in WinQS. In Dimension X, you will have zones, and a zone equals a location in WinQS. So your planning around zones and locations should start the day that you start measuring in Dimension X. If you do not have Dimension X, that is when you will be using the measurement or the collections document, the orange document I showed you earlier. That's when you will be measuring your collections within that document. So the perimeter length, for example, can be linked to multiple elements in the BOE. So the perimeter of the building, you can apply to the foundation, the wall in the foundation, the superstructure wall, the finishes, etc. Might not be applicable to all projects because not all layouts are just a simple square building, but most of the time those lengths can be applied to similar items within the estimating. Which means your Dimension X measurement or your measurement group will be linked to the bill of estimates, to different elements. The element then, foundations, can then be linked to the various detailed items in the bill of quantities, like excavation, backfilling, risk of collapse, etc. So if you take, for example, a simple perimeter of a building, and you link it to the foundation, the walling foundation, the superstructure, the finishes. And those elements, in turn, is linked to various items in the bill of quantities. You can easily measure up to 52 different items that relates to that perimeter length in one shot by linking it like this throughout the WinQS software. Then, should the perimeter of the building change, you will change it in one place and it will apply those changes to your estimate and it will apply those changes to your tender document. So that is the most efficient way to work with the WinQS software. Okay, WinQS linking. What I'm going to do now is I'm first going to open up the WinQS software itself so that we can work through the WinQS program so that you can see what it looks like. And then we will get to the point where I'm going to show you the linking, because that is a very powerful function within the WinQS software to link between different documents, which means you change it in one place and it applies to various other documents. Okay, so let's open WinQS. When you open WinQS, it shows you the different modules that you've got available on your dongle. Obviously, when you purchase WinQS, you have an option to purchase a portable dongle or a standalone code or a network dongle. The licenses work on a per person that wants to work simultaneously. So if you've got 5 guys in the office and 5 of them wants to work on WinQS at the same time, you need 5 licenses. Okay. When you log into WinQS, you will be logging in with a user code. Initially, when you start, you won't have a user code and you will make use of the user code start, but then you will have to immediately go and add a user code for yourself. And this user code will be displayed everywhere in the software where you as the user training is applying certain quantities or rates or measurements, so it would be easy to extract what a specific user has done on a project. So when we log into WinQS, you can see there are the 6 documents that I referred to earlier. It will also list recent projects that you had open. You can add projects, you can restore backups from other colleagues if you're not working on a server. You can add your different users, you can change the user, and then we may also make use of the TeamViewer function to assist users with support online. And then of course we've got a very powerful help file with built-in within WinQS. It's a topic-related help file, which means whenever you press F1, it will open up on the topic that you're busy looking at, and it will explain to you if you've got questions about what you're busy with at the moment. Okay. So from here, you can decide which document you would like to access. For now, I'm going to access the Bill of Quantities document. So this is the blue document that I referred to earlier. It's the Bill of Quantities document. And there's the 6 documents that initially showed on your opening screen. So the Q is your Bill of Quantities, and it's obviously now grayed out because we are focused on the on the Bill of Quantities. Then we've got the Bill of Estimates, Global Project Constants, Dimension X, the Measurement Groups, and the JBCC document. Some terminology, we've got a project code. Every time that you add a project, it will, you will have to provide a code. It would be in capital letters always, and the code can be up to 15 characters, and there you can, of course, give a description of the project that you are busy with. At the top here, we've got what we call a menu. These are all the different functions in WinQS, and then, of course, this line here is what we call the buttons or the icons, and when you scroll over them, it will tell you what this specific button can do, and in brackets we give you the letter, which would be the shortcut on your keyboard. Okay, so we mentioned about the general concepts of WinQS, where you've got a structure and you've got locations. The structure, as I mentioned, can be sectional or non-sectional. In this case, this document is a sectional document. And you can see there the red sections, notes and specifications, preliminaries, and buildings. Also, the structure can be accessed from the left here. You can dock the structure, which means it will stay there and you can move between the different grades. So people that are familiar with Excel will know that Excel's got these little sheets at the bottom. And basically WinQS is doing exactly the same, where your sheets are just listed below each other, and these are the different trades. The order in which these trades are listed is the order in which something will print. So if you look at these items, the order in which these items are listed will be the order in which they will be printing. So if you are not happy with what the printout looks like, you need to go back to where the information is coming from, and you need to fix the order of the items here. Then the locations, of course, would be your location structure. This is now another typical example. Every project will have a unique location structure, and this is the different levels of the locations that you can go into. At this point, we've only got 2 levels, but you can even include more levels than that. As I said, up to 4 levels. It's always a good idea to have a location for preliminaries because preliminary items are always applicable to the whole project. The buttons that we are using throughout WinQS, we try to use the same buttons for the same function. So where you see an add item, that button there means add. So when you see that button, it will be adding something wherever you are busy with, adding a location, adding an item, adding a price, etc. So this is the view, the bill of quantities browse view, and this is the typical kind of view that you will see on your screen. It shows the short description of the item. Now the short description by default is the first 80 characters of an item. The full description will print. So for example here, the QS went and shortened the version here to show that it is for soft rock and for hard rock. So it's easy to distinguish between these 2 items. So a short description can be manually added, and it can also be the default first 80 characters of an item. So there's your full description. So this is what we'll be printing, but this is what you see on your screen. Okay. Saying exactly the same information, but it's just in a shorter version. Okay. Very importantly, when you edit an item in WinQS, it's extremely important that you either edit the short description or clear the short description so that it can create a new default short description. Okay. The rule in WinQS in general is that when you add something, it will be added below the item that you focused on. So the focus line in WinQS is extremely important. You are focusing on this item now, which means if you measure now, you'll be measuring that quantity. If you price it, you will be pricing that quantity. The amount, of course, is automatically calculated by WinQS, but it needs a quantity and a price to calculate an amount. And there's typically where you see the user codes now. So every time you make a change as the user code that you've logged in, it will appear that you as the user edited and when did you edit that item. Okay. WinQS consists out of tabs and they consist out of columns. So the 2 tabs, if you're on a measurable item, it will open up dimensions, and that means you can go and measure the item. If you're on a heading, the dimensions are disabled. The columns that we have here, we've got ISC columns, page references, short description. Now the ISC stands for internal search code, and that is a unique code within the WinQS software. And this code that you see here is the code that gives you the ability to report against different locations. It gives you the ability to extract information. It gives you the ability to link between different documents. This is like in Excel when you insert a formula and you say C1 plus C2. The C1 and the C2 are the unique codes within that Excel file. Now the difference between WinQS and Dimex is that item, excavate for holes, in this specific document train example, is allocated to ISC 321. So wherever this item moves, the ISC will move with it. So there is no other item within this document or within any of these other sheets that will be coded ISC 321. So it's a unique number per project. So excavate for holes in this case is ISC 321, but ISC 321 in another project could be paying to holes. It could be a provisional sum. So it's unique per project. And it only disappears from your project if you get rid of the item completely and you delete it completely from the project. But even then, they won't be adding another 321. 321 will not then be used again for this specific project. So in WinQS you can add items, you can edit items, and then you can hide them, of course. So hide means I don't need this, but I don't know if I need it, if I will need it in the future. So I can hide this item for now. It will not appear in any of my reports. It will not be calculated in any of the reports that I'm printing. But should I need it again, I can go and display the hidden items, and I can unhide the item and get it back. so it's not lost forever when you hide an item in WinQS. You will be able to delete items permanently. So you will be able to delete hidden items for good, but then you won't be able to get them back. Also remember, WinQS does not have an undo button like other software. So you need to be sure of certain functionality and certain processes that you're following. And if you delete something permanently, you must understand that you can't undo what you've just done. So in order for you to make sure that you don't lose information, before you do apply a function that's so permanent, like permanently deleting items, rather make a backup of the project and then you do what you want to do. Then you always, that is then your undo option, because you've got a backup to restore. You can make as many backups as you please. So please don't be scared of making backups. You should do it as often as possible and as often as you don't want to lose the work that you've done. That's the only way to retrieve lost information. Like in Excel, when you close WinQS, it asks you if you want to make a backup of the project. In Excel, it asks you if you want to save your information. WinQS will remember, and all the information will be there when you open up the project again, even if you didn't make a backup. But should your computer crash or should your PC be stolen, then you will not be able to retrieve that information again. And the only way that you can retrieve is to restore old backups. Okay. The page reference column indicates where an item will be printing. Now, like in any other software, you need to go and add item numbers to the different items that you're adding. In WinQS, it will print those item numbers. You don't have to worry about that. It will print correctly, but it might not display correctly on your screen. So you can go and set your page references to see where that is the last item on that page, and that's the first item on page 37. Okay, so all that editing, you don't have to do the editing of numbering items or of subtotaling pages or calculating final summaries. It all gets calculated within the WinQS software automatically. At the top there, we've got set information. We've got a project total. That's a running total of the project, and it gets updated as you make changes. You can't go and edit that. It will be calculated from the final summary of your project. The bill totals, and then for that specific bill, it will show you a total for a specific bill and a project total. This document here, if something is written in red there, it's an indication that this is a sectional document. And then of course it shows you there that you are in the earthworks document, and you are at this point, you are pointing at the bill number 1. There's the earthworks in bill number 1. The red rate that you see there is the active rate for this project. You can have up to 99 different contractors' rates, but you can only view one of them at a time. So this is currently called your active price, and you can set any other price as your active price. The area is the area of the project, and that's the kind of information that you can put within the project parameters, where you can go and put in the overall area of the project, and then it will calculate a cost per square meter for you of the project. Okay. Because we've got no cost at the moment, we can't have a cost per square meter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up another example project that gives a little bit more detail, and that has been measured. Okay. So there's your project total, and you can see the bill total for concrete is then 788,000. And the project total is 2.244 million. And there you can get your cost per square, because you've got a cost and area for the total project. Okay. The short description, as I explained, it's a shorter version of your description, but for example here, someone put in 30 MPA, so it's easy to read on the screen, but that is what's going to print. Here you can input a price for an item, but that is not the best way to do a pricing of a whole document. There's different ways of pricing a whole document. This is just to quickly change the price for a single item. You can put in amount column wording, and that wording, of course, is like excluded or by others or elsewhere measured, something like that. You have the option to not number items, so you've got very long descriptions, to not print the description, or to not print quantity splits. Decimals for bill printing always be set to 0 as per the standard measurement systems, but you can increase the decimals. For example, like reinforcement, where you don't want to lose the 2 tons, then you can increase the decimals and it will indicate the 2 tons and it will be priced accordingly. Inside your item descriptions, you can see it's word-based. So any editing that you do in here will be the same principles that you will follow when you do word editing. You've got a spell checker automatically that will show you when you've typed something incorrectly. You can switch on the formatting so you can see how many times you've pressed enter or did you use tab. So it's very much the same principles as the word formatting and the word editing. You can insert tables, and you can also copy and paste from Word or from Excel and paste it in WinQS, but you must understand that the formatting that comes from those programs might not be the same as the formatting of your program that you've got in front of you here with WinQS, so then you can remove the formatting that came with that copying of the items. Okay. Then you can also put in formulas to read rates, which I will show you with provisional sums. You can make something bold, italic, underlined. And then, of course, the other very special function that we have in WinQS is that we've got set values for the different types of headings that you use. So on this project, we've got a heading 1, 2, and 3. WinQS in total has 4 different headings. And these are set to print in specific ways. So that makes sure that your document's uniformity in terms of headings are the same throughout. If you look at your bill print settings, you can see here the heading properties. Heading 1 will be printing bold, it will be underlined, and it will be a specific font size. And you can choose here what you want it to be, and that will automatically then be applied throughout your document when you use the different heading structures. When you do a bill print, these settings will determine all the different settings that you need. You'll be able to print it with headers and footers, with logos, with watermarks. You'll be able to change the font, which page the document must start. Should it be carried to collection or carried forward in terms of your page totals, how thick your bill line thickness must be, etc. So all your settings in terms of what your document should look like when you print will be coming from your bill print settings. From calculations, there's up to 127 different ways in which you can print a single bill in WinQS with all these different options that we have here. So the chances are good that you are looking for a specific format in which a bill must print, then you can always just go and check in your bill print settings. The chances that you won't find what you're looking for is not very big. The headings, then as I said, we've got the 4 different headings and we've got different units in WinQS. So we've got measurable units and non-measurable units. Our non-measurable, of course, will be like our headings and our text. Text, of course, is where you provide information to the contractors and where it doesn't affect the build-up of the item and the price of the item. If you look at these headings, the heading structure determines how much something will cost. So if I look on this footings cost against excavated surfaces, if I press F8 on my keyboard, it provides me with the detail of where this item is coming from. So it's footings under 30 MPa unreinforced concrete in the bull concrete formwork reinforcement. So the heading structure determines the cost. So everything that goes ahead of that is going to determine how much this is costing. For example, that one there is under unreinforced concrete, and this item here is under reinforced concrete, and that of course is the reason for the difference in price. The quantities, when you want to measure quantities, if I look at this now, if I press F4, I can see that 526 has been made up of specific quantities per location. Okay. That F4 shows me the total, and F5 shows me the detail of where those quantities came from. So when I go into a dimension, I will be asked to select the location. On the left, I would see my location structure. I will select the location and I can go and measure a quantity. Anything that says edited by the system means that these quantities derived from a different document. In this case, green, so it means it's been coming from the Bill of Estimates document. The prices, when we start inserting prices, as I mentioned to you, you can have multiple prices up to 99, but you can only view one at a time. This at the moment is then of course our active price, and you can change it to another contractor's price by just setting the bill price. To price items, you can just go and edit and price the different items from wherever you got the information from. Okay. The other options in prices, of course, is that you can copy them. You can multiply them with different factors to increase it in terms of escalation or inflation. You can create average prices. You can export prices. Those two buttons then, of course, is for the whole tender system, as I mentioned earlier. And then you can also import Excel prices. To import Excel prices, the Excel file needs to be in a very specific format. If you want to do a tender analysis, you need to create a group of prices. And the group, of course, you can insert how many guys you want to compare, how many contractors. And to print the tender analysis, you go report, tender analysis, let's print a summary. You can say which price group for the whole document, and then I'm going to choose this one where it should color the prices for the least and most expensive items. So we print that, and it shows you the highest is Master Builder and the lowest is A Solutions, which is unfortunately in this case our estimate, and that highlights who's the lowest and the highest, and it also shows you the variance between the different contractors from our estimate. So all prices will be compared with the first column. And that is the tender analysis. And that's of course one of our modules that you can choose to purchase or not. So that is what you can do with prices. Then the linking process, if we go back to the Bill of Estimates, you can see the Bill of Estimates of course then will have its own structure, and in this case it's based on the estimating guide. We've got the strip footing here. And if we go back to our presentation here, this is now the typical footing that we have for this specific office block. 25 MPa with a 1 brick wall, and it's got rebar, etc. And we've got the size, and there we've got constants. Okay. Now, in Excel, this typical item would have looked like that, where you would have had your description of your footing, you would have measured it, and the build-up would have been excavation, soft rock, hard rock, carting away, risk of collapse, etc., with all the different factors there, and then you would have applied a rate, and the total amount added together would have given you the rate per meter. So in WinQS, this linking process will look exactly the same. But the difference will be that you will be linking to bill of quantity items, which means you are doing your estimate and your tender document at the same time. So this is a typical example of what it would look like in WinQS, where you will have your item with your constants, as per the detail I showed you earlier. You will have your description that has a constant lookup. So in other words, the breadth, the B of my excavation, is 0.6, so it will say 600 because it's reading the B and it's reading the T. So it's a lookup of the constants. So I'm going to apply the B to the breadth, the W to the width of the wall, the H to the height of the blinding, the D, depth of excavation, T, thickness of concrete, X, reinforcement, which is where I'm going to apply my global project constant. This then will be the list of my links, which looks very similar to the one in Excel. You will have your link quantities and you will have your rates. Now the difference here is this list of items are coming from the bill of quantities. And these bill of quantity rates are also deriving from the bill of quantities. As you can see there, my 30 MPa concrete 1909.71 per cube. For a footing this size, I only have 0.18 cubes of concrete, so times the rate gives me a rate of 343.75 per meter for a footing this size. So in short, the bill of quantities will be feeding the bill of estimates with rates and with prices, and the bill of estimates will be feeding the bill of quantities with quantities. And that's how the two of them will be working together. These are, they can either be coming, the quantities could have been measured in the bill of estimates, or it could have been measured in the collections document, or it could have been measured in the Dimension X document. Okay. So, to show you how to link, you would go to your item. I'm just going to duplicate this item because, of course, in WinQS you can copy items, you can move them, you can duplicate them. So I'm going to duplicate this item now. And I'm just going to change the sizes. So we had a 0.6 breadth of foundation, a 1 brick wall, 0.05 height for blinding, depth of excavation was 0.8, the thickness of the concrete 0.25, or sorry, 0.3. I'm going to change this to be reinforcement, and I'm going to apply my GBC. So here I've got a GBC for rebar and strip footings. I'm going to divide it by 1,000 to get the kilograms per ton. And there you can see my description has been updated accordingly because it's getting the information from the constants here. Now I'm going to say clear short and I'm going to save my item. Okay, so in the bill of estimates you can see we've got green units and we've got red units. Green means it's been linked, red means it has not been linked yet to the bill of quantities. So that means if I measure this item now, I won't be able, or this quantity would not have been moved and linked to the bill of quantities as well. So it's only measured in the estimate. Okay. So we will go to linked items and we will start adding our links. So you will go through your document and the first item that this will apply to is excavate for surface trenches. So I'm going to double click on excavate for surface trenches. I would measure the breadth. So the length times the breadth times the depth will give me my total excavations at the end of the day. And then I'm going to escape and I'm going to go to the next item. Okay, I'm not going to apply hard rock and soft rock for this exercise, but then I've got the extra overall excavations for carting away. Okay, so what are we carting away? If we go back here to this item, carting away will be everything that we're not building, or that we are building. So it would be the carting away of the wall, the concrete and the blinding volumes. So the volume of the wall is the width of the wall times the depth minus the thickness minus the height. And you can see I'm using my constants, I'm not using values. So if any of those constant values change, it will automatically update the values that I've allocated to that constant. Okay, we're also carting away the volume of the blinding and the concrete, so that would be B. the breadth of the footing, and the H, the height of the lining plus the thickness of the concrete. Okay, so that's the value of my carting away. The risk of collapse, of course, it would be the depth of the excavation on two sides. Backfilling, if we look at our drawing here again, backfilling will be those little bits there. So what we can do is we can take the breadth minus the width of the wall will give me the balance of the backfilling in terms of breadth, and the depth minus the thickness and the height of the blinding will give me the balance of the height of the backfilling. So to backfill, we are going to say B minus W, and we're going to multiply it with D minus T minus H. Okay, then the soil poisoning would be the depth plus the breadth plus the depth again. Okay, and that is how you will carry on with the whole linking process. Then you can carry on to the concrete formwork reinforcement, you can link the blinding, etc., etc. And that's how the whole linking process happens between the bill of estimates and the bill of quantities. You can see there I'm busy building up a rate per meter, and of course that derives from the prices in the bill of quantities and the link quantity that I've applied now. I'm linking to ISC numbers. So if I change the rate of ISC 50 now to 80 Rand, it will update all the items in the bill of estimates where I've linked to that item, and that's how the two of them are working together as one document when you do estimating and tenders at the same time by using the links in WinQS. Okay. So the dimension X portion, this information would be importing your quantities from dimension X. You will have the auto measure from dimension X option. It will start listing all the projects that you've got available in dimension X, and you can select your project and your building, and you can import the quantities in here, and from there you can link it to the different items in the bill of estimates or in the measurement groups or straight to the bill of quantities. So that's how the whole interface works with the linking between the different documents. Okay, in terms of the valuations, if we open up another project where we've done some valuations and variation orders, you can see it opens up and it tells me that I'm currently in certificate number 1. Okay, so this is what a document looks like in WinQS when it's locked for certificates. It shows you your estimated final quantity, your original contract quantity, and what you've certified. And on the certified quantity, it will highlight if you certified more than one of these two columns. So it warns you. If you certified more than your contract, the warning would be orange, but if it's certified more than the estimated final cost, it would be red. Because you should be aware that you are paying more than what your estimated final quantity is supposed to be. It shows you here in yellow that these items are locked. You can see that bill there is not yellow because it was a whole new bill that was added to the locked document. Within the valuation, you have your CCR valuation, and you can do your progress valuation. You can pick your location, and you can decide what you want to certify per item. So it will show you there, you haven't measured anything, so what do you want to certify? Okay, if you certify more than the bill of quantity here, it will also warn you that you've paid more than what you were supposed to pay. This document in itself was set up using the item by item option, and as I mentioned, there's a sort key option as well where you can pay against a specific group of items and you can pay a percentage against them. The item by item option is the only option that allows you to import the quantities from the contractor. And as I said, that import file needs to be in a specific format for you to enable you to import it. But what you can do is you can go and create an exploded file, and that exploded file can be provided and given to the contractor. He can insert his quantities, and that's the file that he needs to send back to you, and you can import the valuation quantities. If you've done your valuation up to a certain point and you just decide you want to, for that specific certificate, start all over, you'll be able to delete valuation quantities. You'll also be able to delete quantities on a high level. So if you're busy with a final account and you want to get rid of all the quantities that you've got currently in your document, and then go and basically start clean with a final account, you can delete the quantities. And in terms of the variation orders, you can see here I've got a list of changes that happened on the project relating to specific site instructions, like additional footings, appointment of the balustrating contractor, etc. And I've got my reference to say where this has happened. At the end of the day, I can print a summary report for my client, and which will list all the variations. It will tell me what value of money was omitted, what was added, what is my net effect, and what is my new estimated final account. And you can see there I've got one approved variation, I've got one that was withdrawn, that's not going to happen, one that was declined, that might still be discussed. So that shows you the risk on this project at this point, are the declined VOs, because it might still become a reality. And this shows you the pending values as well of your that you and the contractor are still working towards to agree, and those are the approved variation orders. Okay, then finally our JBCC. And before we go to the JBCC, I can show you the report for the financial review. I am including the valuation to date. I'm putting in as a draft, and throughout the printing of valuation reports, we will give the user the opportunity to value again 6 decimals or bill print decimals. 6 decimals just makes it a lot more accurate while you're valuing on a monthly basis, but obviously the closer you get to final certificate, you should start using bill print decimals. So this is what the financial review looks like. Just going to increase the size a little bit. It shows you the contract amount, your current progress, your estimated final cost, what was it last month, and what is the movement. So if you go to the final summary, you can see here's my contract, that's what I've paid to date, that's my estimated final cost previously, and that's my movement so far on this project. So every little change that you are applying to your project is going to display on this report, and this will be adding up to the variation orders that we've mentioned on the variation order schedule as well. Okay, then finally, our final part of a project per month, of course, would be your actual payment certificate. And this is what the JBCC looks like. And you can see I've got my main contractor there, and I've got my subcontractor, and I've got my totals. And I can print the different types of reports. So typically this specific project was done on the JBCC 6.2 contract. So if you want to print the payment certificate, it will print like this. So you can see it's exactly the layout of the JBCC payment certificates. Unfortunately, we are not putting the JBCC logo on the payment certificate, but you are more than welcome to add it through PDF or one of those programs where you can add it, but we are not allowed to add the JBCC logo. So there it will show you the values that you've paid, and you can print it out, and it also shows you the payment notifications. So that's for all your subcontractors. Okay, I selected that it's final now, so it's including the information here of the principal agent, and there it will show me the value of my subcontractor. So these are all the different reports that you can print: payment certificate, notifications, recovery notifications, recoveries, your certificate summaries, work done, etc. And there it will also print the HALET calculations for you should your project have had escalation applied to it. There is where you will be able to insert your indices on a monthly basis, and as you receive it from Stats SA, and calculations will be done according to those indices that you've added. The project information, you will put in all the information of the employer, the principal agent, the QS, the work type, is it escalation, do you have manual VAT, especially for these companies where we went from a 14% to a 15% VAT in South Africa. The calculation of VAT is not that straightforward on your payment certificate. And then of course this is the information about your contractors. And you can see here I've got my authorized variation orders, which I will be able to import from my CCR, and the only approved variation order I had earlier was the appointment of my balustrating contractor. And that then will show the approved and authorized variations as well. You can insert the penalties. It gives you the ability to select your security adjustment. This of course is only allowed in the beginning of the project to select the security adjustment, and it can't change afterwards. Okay. So there you can see how WinQS can be used as a software from the beginning, from your very first estimate all the way through to your final account. And all of that can be done in one project. So you're not going to have a list of 3,000 projects because you're doing a project for every stage of your administration. You can do all of it in one go, and you can have all your certificates included in one project. You can always go back to the history. There's the ability to print historical reports here. You can just select the number of the report that you want to print, and you can go to the historical certificates that you've inserted. And that is WinQS. And please feel free to contact us should you have any further questions. Thank you.